Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Few. Mason's excited for losing every single game in fantasy this week, and I'm sure Paul is too. You're welcome for all the advice, guys. I'm just kidding, all right? We had some decent predictions, I guess. But before we get into today's podcast of the Sunday recap, I want to shout out our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We are the Fantasy Few, so go check us out on all those platforms. And if you are listening to this on YouTube, please give this a like, comment, subscribe. Comment down below. Who did we screw you over with this week and made you start them? Because there's a lot of candidates for it. I'll send you over to my co-host, Paul Cotton.
Hey, how we doing, everybody?
And then I'll send you over to Mason so he can kick off our segment of Calm Your Clams from this week 1 of Sunday.
What is going on, everybody? It is officially the day after the first week of football. We still got a game going on tonight. But it is important to remember we are in the very early stages of fantasy football. We just had week 1. Week 1's just about over. There are a lot of things that we can take away from week 1. There's a lot of things to learn, but there's also a lot of things to just kind of pump the brakes on, given the segment Calm Your Clams. So today we're going to talk about people that basically either showed out or didn't show out, and why you should or should not target them moving forward. Okay. I'd say
Let's start this real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
It was random.
All right, so I'm a sore loser even when it's not me losing per se. And I'm gonna start this off with Chicago. Matt Nagy needs to calm his clams on Andy Dalton being our starting quarterback. Justin Fields needs to be the starter week 2 on for the rest of the season. But on the bright side, if he does sit him all year, I'm just hoping and praying that Matt Nagy doesn't have a head coaching job next year. So
that would be
that's
a
all
very good
for Calm Your Clams.
You just want to throw that in there since you're the Bears fan, and I'm the Bears
I
fan
did.
too.
I'm so upset. Mason, he's been bragging about it. He has all the right to because the Rams thoroughly whooped us last night.
Listen, I was walking down the street last night with my dog, and there was a car that drove by, Bears flag in there hanging out. Whatever, they parked in front of me. They got out. I'm walking with my girlfriend. I'm like, look, I'm about to talk some shit over here. He's wearing a Bears jersey, a Mac jersey, whatever. And I said, hey, man, what's going on? You ready for the beatdown tonight? He goes, oh, yeah, man. I said, go Rams. He got mad. I'm in Chicago. This guy got mad. Started like, oh, hell no. You know, I'm like, all right, man, I'm about to throw the first bear down if you kind of get too much up in my grill right now. But, yeah, I was ready to take out the first bear of the night.
All right. Well,
show them how Aaron Donald throws down.
So I want to talk about the biggest Calm Your Clams to, kind of get away from the Bears and Paul's anger and Mason's excitement. I want to talk about Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams and just that whole Packers offense as a whole, and Aaron Jones. Yeah, include him. Why not? Aaron Rodgers is one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game, and this is coming from a Bears fan. Davante Adams is one of the best receivers in the NFL. This is coming from a Bears fan. Aaron Jones is one of the best running backs in the NFL. This is coming from a Bears fan. There was nothing to be scared of with these Packers. Yes, they got obliterated by the Saints. But keep in mind, the Saints are playing for the hurricane that destroyed their entire state the other day. So, it's the hurricane game, Jameis Winston, he learned under Drew Brees for a year. It's the Jameis Winston game. It's all the above. It was the Aaron Rodgers didn't play a single snap in the entire offseason game. It's just everything that comes together. The Saints were just destined to win that game. Probably not by that much, but I think at the end of the day, they probably should have won that game. I think Rodgers...
They weren't prepared.
Yeah, I'm just going to say Rodgers...
Can I interject real quick?
I want to throw one stat before you interject. I just want to say...
Okay, go ahead.
It's not a stat. I just want to say Aaron Jones, Aaron Rodgers, Davante Adams, they're playing Detroit next week. Go ahead and start all of them. Mm-hmm. You can go, Paul.
So I just wanted to throw in a pun. Yes, pun intended. Was the perfect storm, if you will, Stone.
I don't know, man.
Hurricane coming in, hits New Orleans. They come out. They go to Jacksonville, play Green Bay and the reigning MVP. But like Mason just kind of alluded to, that entire offseason drama with Aaron Rodgers, it kind of came back to bite him. He looked rusty, even though he is probably the greatest quarterback. Maybe next to Tom Brady. Obviously next to Tom Brady, probably the most gifted talent-wise, physically, I would say. Till Pat Mahomes takes that over.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it was just kind of the perfect storm for everything to culminate. Jameis Winston out in his first start for New Orleans, throw 5 touchdowns on 20 passes. Like, ridiculous. Throwing a touchdown every 4 completions you have, or every 4 passes you have.
With Matt LaFleur's coaching, It's not tough. Just give them the ball on the 20-yard line every play.
Yeah, I think more of the story here. Packers were unprepared, and Aaron Rodgers, he looked defeated in the press conference. He's going to get his act together. He's going to come back, and he's going to stomp the Detroit Lions. One guy I want to talk about today on the Calm Your Clams is somebody we talked about earlier on the podcast. His name is Tyler Lockett. We called him Tyler Headache. He had a great fantasy performance week 1. He had like 5 targets, 4 catches, and like 2 touchdowns. Huge fantasy performance. This is typical Tyler Lockett. He saw big plays, and he got his yards, he got his touchdowns on like 2 of them. I think that he will go back to underperforming and going back up. Underperforming, going back up. It's still going to be Headache. Calm your clams on Tyler Lockett. You got to start him, so if you have him, plug him in your lineup, but do not have high hopes for the guy.
That's the thing that scares me the most is when you have someone like Tyler Lockett. He is just a phenomenal talent, but he's not going to do it every week. He never has, and I don't see that changing this year. He's always the boomer bust guy, and I hate boomer bust people. I like people with consistency. I don't see him doing what he did last week. We were looking at the stats earlier. Tyler Lockett had 5 receptions. Or no, it was 5 targets, sorry. 5 targets and 4 receptions yesterday. So you take away those 2 big touchdowns, and you're looking at like 2 catches with like 15, 20 yards. And that's awful, but that's what he does.
That's exactly what he does.
But you also have to take into consideration that they were running the ball quite a bit, and Russ only had 23 attempts. So Wilson having 3 passing attempts is just wild.
That is true.
I don't think he's ever had that little amount in an NFL game. He had 18 completions, though.
Yeah. No, that's
54 yards.
good.
But like you said, a lot of those were on the deep passes to Tyler Lockett.
Yep.
Clam Calmer.
Let's talk about somebody else we talked about previously in the podcast. His name is Robbie Anderson. I've been kind of high on the guy. I've drafted him in some leagues. Stone's been calling it. If you've been paying attention to Stone, he literally said that when he played with Sam Darnold in New York, that he would have his bomb. He'd have his one big catch for a huge touchdown, and that's literally what he did on Sunday.
I had him
Christian
in fantasy.
McCaffrey.
I had him in fantasy 2 straight years for the Jets. I love the guy because I know he has all that talent in the world. But with Sam Darnold, he's just like, he sees all the ghosts. Every now and again, he sees Robbie Anderson just downfield wide open. He's like, oh, I should probably throw it to him.
I mean, honestly, I started him in a couple of leagues. I had 15 points out of him. You go. What do you want to say?
Audience, when you guys are listening to this episode, Mason, our beloved co-host over here, proposed a trade to me in fantasy. Yeah, and this just brought it up because he brought up Robbie Anderson. He offered me Robbie Anderson for Julio Jones straight up.
I almost told you on it, too.
You guys are listening to this. Tell me what you think I should do. Should I accept? Should I, or is Mason off his rocker?
I don't think Julio's any good if you watched the game this week. He looked horrible in every aspect. He really did. I was telling him before this podcast today, he looked almost like a clone of a player on the other side of the field named A.J. Green. They were doing the same thing. They couldn't get any separation. They were just getting destroyed by the guy guarding them. Couldn't catch a cold. It was just, he did not look good.
Dude, speaking of the Cardinals,
I heard a funny quote about Aaron Rodgers about how he was playing yesterday. And this is going to tie back into Julio in a second. He said that he looked like an actor trying to play Aaron Rodgers. And that's kind of what you just made me think of, Stone, when you said he's like a clone of A.J. Green and past his prime. It's like he's like a Julio-looking type actor trying to play Julio Jones on the field, and it's just he's not producing like he did. But you also have to think he dealt with a hamstring injury all last year, on and off the field. I think he only played like 10 games out of 16, maybe a couple less than that. And he's coming into a brand new system, brand new offense. It's not the same air raid type offense that he had in Atlanta. He had Matt Ryan, who throws for 4,500 yards every single year, going to him and Calvin Ridley.
You're
And
literally
now he
talking
has
yourself
Ryan
into it right
Tannehill.
now. Trade me right now. Send me the trade, and we will get this done.
Oh, because I still believe in Julio, though.
Oh,
It's like one of those
okay.
players that no matter how many times he burns me, I had him last
Sorry,
year.
Robbie
I drafted
Anderson's
him
got
with my second pick last year, or my
15
first
more
pick, one of the
fantasy
two.
points than Julio.
He lost me. I can't even count how many games because I started him. And 4 plays in, he's like, "Oh, my hamstring." Time decision.
trade-
Oh, my
him
hamstring.
to
Like, I just can't get rid of him because as soon as I do, he's going to be the player that's like, "Ha, now I'm going to put it on you," and he's going to ball out for the rest of the year, and I'm going to have Robbie Anderson losing me 12 games and only winning me 2. Like, no,
Listen,
I don't want to
do
do
it.
that.
Don't even think about it. Quit thinking about it. All right. So since we're talking about the Cardinals and the Titans, what is your guys' take on that game? The Cardinals came out.
Oh man.
They outplayed the Titans. The Titans are a great team.
Dude.
The Cardinals' defense
Whooped 'em.
showed out. Chandler Jones had 5 sacks.
Yeah.
Kyler Murray had 5 touchdowns. The dude was running around all over. This is literally what he would do after he hiked the ball. Literally. Oh, then he throws it to DeAndre Hopkins. And it's like,
I want to say, did you guys see his little like step back pass? That was one of the filthiest moves I've seen from a quarterback. I was like, oh my goodness, you cannot stop that man.
Kyler Murray is literally okay. If you guys are listening now and you listen to one of my busts, I accidentally said Kyler Murray, and I was totally kidding. So I just want you guys to know Kyler Murray is on at least three of my fantasy football.
He is so good, man.
Anyway,
but I do want to talk about another guy. One of the guys that kind of makes him very good, and that's Deandre Hopkins. I'm just going to say it right now. The best receiver in the NFL. I've said it for, I think, 10 years now at this point, and I'm just going to continue saying it. He's consistent. There's nothing wrong with the guy. Always a surefire start, and you guys saw that toe tap touchdown just to start the game, and it's just like, yep, D-Hop's back.
Just about to bring
should
that up.
literally
the
go
back of the end
right
zone,
after
being basically pushed out, body on an incline, and he still toe taps in the back of the end zone for a touchdown. Like, he has the ultimate control in his hands. He doesn't drop anything. Like, he is about as sure-handed as it comes to making a contested catch, a wide open catch, a circus catch. Like, it doesn't matter what kind of catch it is. 9 times out of 10, DeAndre Hopkins is coming down.
When it comes to fantasy football, Devontae Adams and DeAndre Hopkins should literally be talked about as who should go first. But then we see Calvin Ridley, who kind of fell off in week 1. I don't want to say fell off completely.
I want to stop you in your tracks right now. There's another guy who's going up in the first round, and that's Tyreek Hill. And he is definitely deserving of that as well.
Yes, he is. That was sick. I was playing against him. Oh, man. It just tears me up, dude. It's sickening. I'm just like, there's another touchdown. There's another touchdown.
How much of him being so good do you think is just his speed, though? His speed to get behind defenses.
Dude, he can track a ball so well. He can track the ball so well.
He can. And okay, so this will go back to 2 years ago. He was coming off an injury, his first game back, and he went up in the end zone. Like, he out-jumped dude that probably had a good foot on him, height, in the end zone to come down with it for a touchdown. Cradled it right above. It was like, if any of you guys are basketball fans and you can think back to Blake Griffin dunking over the top of Timofey Mozgov, like, that's what little 5'4" Tyreek Hill did to this defender last year. A safety in the back of the end zone, just right up and over him like he's Megatron or something.
Tyreek Hill
his athletic ability is off the charts. Again, there's a lot of times his speed, he just gets behind the defense and Pat Mahomes can hit him. Like, it's almost not even fun at that point because he's like a Madden cheat code or something. It's like you're out here playing with a creative player, 99 speed, just blowing away defense.
It is. If you ever play with both of them on Madden, that's cheating, and I never do that because that's cheating.
All right, but
yeah,
like you were saying, Mason, is when you're looking at the receiver conversation now, Hopkins should always be in the conversation for the first
He
drafted
should.
receiver.
100%.
And he always is in like the mid-second round, like almost every year. It's just not right.
This can bring us to Calvin Ridley, who was very, very hyped up. Let's just talk about that whole game. We had the Eagles offense came out smoking, right? Jalen Hurts looked great. But then we had the Falcons. The Falcons were one of the worst defenses in the league last year, and now they look to be one of the worst teams in the NFL still. They couldn't get it done on offense yesterday. They couldn't get it done on defense. What is your guys' take on the whole thing?
I mean, we know that Philly's defense isn't a top-tier defense in the NFL. I'm not going to say it's bottom tier either. I'm just going to say it's like right in the middle. They got solid pieces there. But Matt Ryan, man, he just looks scared to throw the ball. Like, he got sacked like 16 times, it seemed like, and I mean, Calvin Ridley didn't get much separation. Nothing looked good to me on that Atlanta offense. It scares me a little bit. But, I mean, Ridley still had a manageable day. He still ended up with, like, 10 points in PPR leagues. Like,
I think he had, like, 5 catches, 50 yards.
Yep.
And that's manageable.
He had, like, 4 catches on the first drive.
Yep. That's the thing that scared me the most.
You know how the rest of the game went for him.
Yep.
But, yeah, like you said, Stone, Matt Ryan, he looked scared to pull the trigger. He didn't get Kyle Pitts involved. He went to Hayden Hurst a couple times, overthrew receivers, underthrew receivers.
Kyle Pitts still had 8 targets.
Run game going. Mike Davis, he looked good. He was running people over. Same thing with Cordero Patterson, to be honest. But it just wasn't sustainable. Like, it got to the point where they had to kind of abandon the run. They were trying to pass, but they weren't even trying to pass. It was like they were trying to stay in the game with the run game up until Jalen Hurts just started carving them up in the second half.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a beautiful pass that he had to Devontae Smith, the first touchdown. And then from that point on, it was just like he was locked in and he was just throwing dimes.
I'm scared. Normally, this is the first time probably in my fantasy football career that I can remember saying this. Kind of scared of Matt Ryan right now. I love the guy. He's always been fantasy gold. Anybody on the offense typically is. Just what we saw from week 1, I could say calm your clams right now. And like, he is going to be fine, but I just don't know right now. I just don't know.
I'm going to be honest with you. I had him in fantasy last year, and he was my starting quarterback in a league, and it was scary to start him every week because you knew he was going to go out and get 4 points every other week. Like, he played really bad. Last year should have kind of been like a showing of what's going to happen this year because he doesn't have Julio anymore,
That's a good point.
I was even telling you guys before the season started that Kyle Pitts has bust potential written on him, and what I saw in that game was a tight end that could not create any sort of separation from any DBs at all or linebackers. He was always.
I knew you were looking for that. Saw your bust talk.
He was covered the whole time, dude. Like I was watching it and I was like, this is what I was scared of. He's fast, but he somehow is not getting away from the defenders.
Yeah.
NFL's
that's also what happens when you don't have Julio Jones anymore.
Yeah, I mean,
we've seen the same thing with Calvin Ridley.
They thought they were going to be okay.
Seen the same thing with Calvin Ridley. They were trying to cover him. He's fast enough. He's small enough. He found some holes early, but then they shut him down. And that was the same thing you just said with Kyle Pitts. He wasn't even targeted all that often by Matt Ryan. When he was, it was like right around the line of scrimmage or 10 yards off the ball. It wasn't like he's trying to go downfield, or it wasn't like he was trying to like make big play potential. Another guy we talked about, Russell Gage, 0 targets, or maybe he had a couple targets, but 0 catches.
So surprised
absolutely
to see 0.
Nothing.
Big fat 0.
Like that blew me away, honestly. Like I thought he was going to be a big part of that offense.
It's just because of how bad the offense was.
So the Falcons are a big question mark right now. Let's talk about the Eagles offense. What do we think? Jalen Hurts, he looks good.
Yeah, this Atlanta defense, as we've said, not good, clearly.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts, though, he looked great. And that pass to Devonta Smith in the end zone alone is enough for me to say that Jalen Hurts definitely has real potential to be a good quarterback in this league because he showed it right there on that was just a dime, absolute dime. And I think Devonta Smith's a stud. Something
that made me happy. Well, actually not. I liked Miles Sanders' involvement. I think he got about 15 carries. I've been high on Miles Sanders all year, just like one of our other co-hosts, content creators, social media guy, Drew, big time Eagles fan. He's talked about how much they need to get Miles Sanders involved, and I agree, man. Just keep him 15 carries, 15, 20 carries a game. They're going to see success in that offense. And what kind of pissed me off they let Kenneth Gainwell, this is just fantasy wise, but they let Kenneth Gainwell steal Vulture a touchdown from him. I'm just like, come on. But I'm happy the 15 points, or 17 points, I think, in PPR that he gave me this week. Super happy about that.
I kind of want to go back to talking about predictions that I made that are looking to be correct right now. So let's go away from Miles Sanders and let's talk about how smart I am in terms of fantasy football.
Let's do it.
Remember when we had the hot take, my hot take about the Dolphins winning the AFC East, and it's because Josh Allen might regress from last year.
Yeah.
Josh Allen did not look like Josh Allen of last year. He looked like, now I'm not saying he's going to regress this season. I still like him, but and it's against the Steelers defense. That's another thing to take into account. That's a great defense. Yeah. But he did look like he regressed in that game, and he missed a lot of easy throws that he made last year. And it seems like that completion percentage might dip again.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And that's literally what we talked about. They were number one in passing. Their wide receiver put out the most fantasy points. And the Steelers are a great defense. They made Josh Allen throw the ball 50 times, and I don't even think he cracked the top 10.
Not even close. I'm looking at it, and he was way down there.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't crack top 10, guys. And that scares me a little bit moving forward, because if Josh Allen has 50 pass attempts, Stephon Diggs had like
9 catches, 60 yards.
Oh, 9 catches, 60 yards. Sorry. Like that's their guys that send them through the roof. And Cole Beasley was dropping passes. Another guy that I was just like, oh yeah, draft Cole Beasley. He really let me down. I don't know. I don't know right now.
I would say,
I think they're going to be
specific.
Fine,
Josh Allen was 26th out of 32 starting quarterbacks.
Yeah, that's rough. And you could just
30 for 51.
Yeah. No, there's no way it's 26. He had like 20 fantasy points.
Yeah, he had like
20 he had one touchdown.
Well, I'm looking at it from an overall standard of his completion percentage, like coupled with his QBR and everything, for all 32 starting quarterbacks.
Yep,
got it.
I would say
fantasy down there ranked 26th.
Fantasy wise, which is what we're talking about. Obviously, he was fine. Like you could start him in fantasy. I'm not saying you can't.
Yeah.
I just want to talk about how the potential regression was there and why it kind of hurt his ADP in the first place and why he should have not been going where he was going, kind of.
Yeah.
But
very solid point.
How about we talk about the other side of the ball? Let's just stay on the hype train of Stone getting predictions right, and let's talk about Najee Harris. I know Paul's going to be mad at this one because I said Najee Harris is going way too early in drafts, and I'm not sure if the Bills' defense is really as good as what they showed, but if they are, they're okay. They're not bad. They're not good. They're like
he showed some rookie
moments. They have
a
really good secondary.
They do have a great
pretty
secondary.
Decent front seven. But again, he only had 16 carries
for 45 yards.
I mean, but again, that's 16 carries in the game. That's like I didn't particularly watch this game. I didn't have it on cable or any of my streaming devices. So I don't know what type of game plan they were running. If it was he was out there consistently getting the ball. I don't know if it was just spot touches here and there. I know it was a very scoring game. I think it was like 3-0 or 10-3 at half. But I don't know the game plan that they used for him.
It was
what I will say is I still 100% think that he's going to be a workhorse for that team.
I just want to say I also called that all the receivers wouldn't be very good. And Deontay Johnson was their highest scoring one with a touchdown that he almost dropped in the back of the end zone, and he scored 14 fantasy points PPR. The other two on 10.
I'll still take 14.
Chase Claypool had a sick catch on the sideline, and then that's all he had all day.
Now that's Chase Claypool for you. We talked about that.
And Deontay Johnson, he almost dropped that touchdown. If he drops that touchdown, just fantasy irrelevant, and then Juju would have been the top guy with 9 fantasy points for them.
That's my dog.
And this all comes down to Ben Roethlisberger not really looking that good.
No, he doesn't.
And I just said at the beginning of the year, I thought the Steelers' offense was going to be bottom tier in the league.
For sure. One guy that's kind of I'm itching to talk about right now, Zeke Elliott. I thought he was going to be one of the best fantasy producers that Thursday night game. Clearly wrong. And in hindsight, it just makes sense. The Cowboys' game plan was to go in and keep up with the Bucks.
Yeah.
They did that. That was one hell of a game to watch. But Zeke was they were not intending to run the ball. I do think Zeke looked okay. He pass protected fine. I think when he gets his chances this year, when they are meant to run the ball, I think he's going to be a solid play. I'm actually going to try to send a few trades for him coming up this week. So I think he's going to be okay. Hold your horses on Zeke or calm your clams and have faith.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that because, like you said, the game plan was keep up with Tom Brady and don't run that ball into that defensive line because that defensive line in Tampa is for real.
Yeah.
So
it's filthy.
Yes, it is. So they had the right game plan. Dak had to try and win it for him, and he did as much as he could to try and win it for them.
Yeah.
Honestly,
that was
about
an
it
amazing
too.
Yeah.
There was quite a few times where I'm like, okay, Cowboys are actually going to take it, and if I didn't come down to Greg Zuerlein missing a field goal, an extra point, kicking issues in the first half, having to settle for 3 field goals. I think 2 of the possessions were in the red zone. They very well could have actually beat the Bucks.
Let's talk about another big thing that no one really expected the other day, and that was the backfield in Detroit. Both of them had 8 receptions, DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams, and Mason. No?
We talked about this, and I expected Jamal Williams to be a beast in this backfield.
I was saying both.
Because I don't.
No one expected both of them to get 8 catches. Like, that's 16 catches out of the backfield in one game.
But
I didn't expect DeAndre Swift to be on the field that much. I figured he would have got hurt by now.
And that is so. Okay, let's talk about Christian McCaffrey real quick. He had 9 targets, and I think he had 8 catches or something like that.
No, he had 9 catches.
Do you know who beat him out in targets? DeAndre Swift.
Yep.
DeAndre Swift had 11 targets. You know why? Anthony Lynn is their offensive coordinator. Let's go back to the Chargers. Let's look at Austin Eckler. Let's think about how relevant Austin Eckler is in PPR. If DeAndre Swift kind of takes this Austin Eckler role, DeAndre Swift's going to be huge this year for PPR. And then Jamal Williams will still be super relevant. Like they said, he's going to get a majority of the it looks like it's after week 1, it's going to be 50-50. That 49ers defense is no joke, guys. They are full of studs, and they were still able to come out like that.
Or in the fourth quarter.
What?
They were a joke. Said they were a joke in the fourth quarter, though.
Yes,
they let off the gas.
That's because of Shanahan's inability to be able to close off games. It seems like he has one of the worst game plans to end games in the NFL.
He likes to be like Matt Nagy. He plays it too cautious. He plays to not lose, and he still loses. He plays like Dan Quinn in Atlanta. Oh, not at all. He plays like Dan Quinn in Atlanta. When you're up in the Super Bowl, 23-0 or 28-3, play to not lose. And
some people still have flashbacks on that, Paul. Don't trigger anybody.
Oh no, the only reason I brought it up though is because Tom Brady trolled Atlanta for losing this week in football. I didn't read the full article, but they said he does something where every time they lose, he puts up a W or something if they specifically win. And somewhere in it, I think it always has 28-3, just so he can troll them and keep rubbing it in that they had the greatest Super Bowl collapse ever.
All right, let's talk about the opposite side of the ball from the Lions, the Niners. Obviously, they had an offensive explosion with Raheem Mostert playing a career high 2 plays this year.
Now he's done for half the season.
Looked great in his 2 plays, like he always does. But that's not who I want to talk about. We all knew that was going to happen anyways. That was kind of a risky pick in any draft you're in. We want to talk about Brandon Ayuk. One of all 3 of our probably favorite young receivers, and the 49ers decide after the game to release a thing saying, oh yeah, by the way, Ayuk's been hurt all offseason, and he was just not going to play much today, so he didn't get a target. Thanks.
Great job.
I did read going into it that he was questionable, but it was come Wednesday or Thursday, they fully cleared him for full go in the game.
Yep.
Took him off all injury reports. I'm like, okay, cool.
It's what they
he's
do with
gonna
everyone.
go, you know, and then
It's what they do with everyone because people like DeAndre Hopkins usually has that question mark next to him, and it's like he's not hurt. He's just gonna go in and play. But in this case, Ayuk gets it wiped, and he's just no show, not even there.
Yep. And then they come out with some
I was
report.
shocked. I was shocked to see a goose egg in the score column for him.
Did you guys see that report? Ayuk's not fully ready to be a pro or something like that.
Yeah, that's BS. I saw that too.
Did you guys see him last year? He was a professional football player last year. I got it like a credible some beat reporter said it from San Francisco.
There was a San Francisco reporter that came out and said that. I don't know exactly who it was, but I saw that and I could not believe it. I'm like, did you not see what that guy was capable of doing last year? He was a beast for them last year.
They need to hire some new beat reporters because they failed to mention anything about Ayuk, and then they say some stupid stuff that really mad at the situation.
Yeah. Another situation.
Another
situation. You take it. It's another situation we're mad at.
Yeah. We're talking about Austin Eckler right now.
Oh, I was going Cortland Sutton.
Oh no, go Cortland Sutton.
Yeah, I was gonna say because me and Mason were very high on Sutton. I think I took him in every single league I'm in, and I think it was obvious that he was gonna be on a play restriction, but not to the extent that he was. Like, he was almost a complete non-factor in the offense. I thought they would at least utilize him, give him like 4 or 5 catches or so. Like, I'm pretty sure he only ended the game with 2 targets though. And one of them was a bomb downfield that he actually created a little bit of separation on that got overthrown to him. So he probably could have got that touchdown. I like Cortland Sutton a lot, but you just got to be patient with him.
I think because of his injury, he's going to be eased in. I think his play count's going to be diminished right now. And now with that gruesome Jerry Jeudy high ankle sprain, that he's going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks for. Cortland Sutton is obviously his usage is going to have to increase a little sooner. But maybe a guy to think of right now, Tim Patrick.
Yeah.
I think his usage
That's what I was going to bring up.
Or KJ
But
Hamler.
Then you got Noah Fant, who's going to be fine. KJ Hamler.
Hamler dropped a nice bomb from Bridgewater, too. Well, it wasn't really a nice bomb. It was kind of a bad bomb, but it was still where Hamler should have been able to catch it. But that's a story for
Hamler's good. I mean, they got a lot of talent on that offense. But I think one of the main takeaways for me is that Noah Fant will be startable each week.
Yes.
8 targets, 62 yards receiving.
Yep.
I think it'll only get better as the season goes on. So, yeah, I'm happy about that. I drafted Fant in a few leagues.
And we're starting to kind of run out of time here, so I want you to talk about Eckler since we already brought him up and what his deal is.
Let's bring back up Anthony Lynn. He leaves to go to Detroit. So now Eckler, he's been having kind of injury-plagued offseason, and I've kind of talked about his durability. Well, he was limited big time, except in the goal line. He rushed in a touchdown. But other than that, his targets were low. He didn't really have a chance to do much. So he got the touchdown for you fantasy owners. Awesome. But I wonder, with Lynn being gone, how much usage he's going to see in the passing game and how long this hammy injury is actually going to linger for him.
I have a quick question, Mason. With you being a Rams fan, did you guys try to utilize Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson a lot in the pass game last year in your offense?
Did we? Really, all I remember is Cam Akers didn't really come on to the end of the season. And it was really just...
The only reason I ask is because your ex-offensive coordinator, Brandon Staley, is now the head coach for the Chargers.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why it's like you see a lot of the offensive coordinators, they're actually running and calling the plays for a lot of these teams now. Some of the head coaches are kind of stepping back and allowing that to happen. And so it's like when they get their shot to be a head coach themselves, you can kind of see if they have a similar roster or if they can potentially do the same type of things. And he has good running backs over there. But again, Austin Eckler, if he can stay healthy, we already talked about that in our past episodes. If he's healthy, he's going to be a good running back. Justin Jackson, he can do it. But again, if he's healthy,
the guy that got the carries over there was
really have much faith in him.
Yep,
I don't even
Roundtree.
Barry Roundtree, he's a rookie, yeah.
He's the one that got the carries.
I had a feeling that he was going to take the carries from Justin Jackson because Justin Jackson is not as good as what people make him out to be.
He had a chance to prove himself.
Yeah, exactly.
I think Justin Jackson's old news.
I like Roundtree. He actually looked pretty solid for the most part. And, I mean, they're playing against Washington's defense, and that's in my opinion, a top
Real
tier
solid
defense in this league. So, I want to talk about one more running back before we get out of here, and that is James Robinson in Jacksonville. He had 5 carries for 25 yards. I just want to say, Urban Meyer, what are you doing, dude? Trevor Lawrence is a rookie throwing the ball 50 times in his debut. Are you kidding me? Give the ball to Robinson.
28 for 51.
Oh, my man, that is
His
rough.
first NFL game, 28 for 51.
He's not giving Lawrence a chance, man.
Lawrence looked good at the beginning of the
Urban
game.
Meyer, there's 0.00% chance you will ever hear this and listen to this. This is not college. This is not Ohio State. This is not you coaching at Florida. Take your garbage offense and your scheme does not fit the NFL system. In today's modern NFL where they pass the ball, your offense does not fit it. Go back to college where you belong, or go back to the booth where you can commentate games because you have no idea what you're doing as an NFL head coach. You've already lost your locker room. You have one of the best running backs in the league. He came on as an undrafted rookie free agent last year, who balled out, had 1,200 plus rushing yards. Like, he's a great running back. You have 48-year-old Carlos Hyde leading touches in that backfield. Be a break. Go back to college or go back to the booth because you do not belong in the NFL, sir.
I think Paul
That's all I'm
said
gonna say
it.
about that.
I think you nailed it on the head. I mean, awful coaching. When you have James Robinson on your team, you have to give him the ball. I will say, if you're a Robinson owner, calm your clams. Don't trade him away for nothing right away. If Urban Meyer gets his act together and gives him the ball, gives him at least 10 runs next game, he's going to be startable in fantasy. That's just how good James Robinson is because he's involved in the pass game as well. Mason,
You guys don't believe Paul on that? They got beat by the laughingstock of the NFL, the Houston Texans. Their organization is so poorly ran, and they just came in and obliterated the Jaguars. I don't understand what's going on there, but it only makes sense what Paul said. Urban Meyer is just trash.
So, yeah, we tried to touch upon every game. I think there might be a couple that we missed. Actually, there's probably a few that we missed, obviously. I know we missed the Cincinnati game. Cincinnati came out with Joe Burrow looking really good, dropping dimes to Jamar Chase downfield, leading that team to a win.
If I can say one thing just about the Bengals offense, it's that my guy that I've said is going to be a beast this year, Joe Mixon. I'm sorry, my cat's going crazy. He's got the potential to be one of the number 1 workhorses in the league this year. He proved it Sunday playing the Vikings, who have a stout defense, great team. I'm just super excited about him because I've drafted Joe Mixon in so many leagues this year.
Just that I might have been a little too quick to judge Jamar Chase and his lack of ability to see the NFL football because it doesn't have white stripes on it like it does in college. I don't think he recorded a drop in the game. Nope. He looked very solid. He looked basically like the 2018 version or the 2019 version with Joe Burrow back at LSU. I still love T. Higgins. T. Higgins had the first touchdown of the game for them. I think they're both going to continue to be really good receivers. And I was going to say something else, but I completely forgot. It was back when we were talking about James Robinson or getting away from that. But
we're out of time here. We're out of time, so I was trying to move things along, trying to make sure we touched upon every game at least. And I do want to say, I think I called Tyler Boyd being the number 3 receiver on that team in terms of fantasy this year. I know Tyler Boyd's still a stud, but it's just when you got Higgins and Chase, with the potential they have, man, they could take over. Yeah. Joe Burrow's for real, man. That offense could be good this year.
For sure.
But yeah, that's all we had time for today. A little bit longer of an episode here from Fantasy Feud today, but I mean, it's a Sunday recap. We wanted to go over pretty much every game that we could and give you the analysis of what we saw this week. Mason, do you got anything left to say before we head out of here?
Fantasy Feud out, baby. Let's go.
Paul, you got anything to say, man?
Actually, yeah, I just remembered what I was going to say. It's a little tidbit that I heard. Adam Schefter dropped it probably about 10 o'clock in the morning Sunday.
Bye, guys.
Apparently, Miami, when we talked about them possibly being in on Deshaun Watson, It wasn't for a lack of trying or because they didn't have interest in him. Apparently they did. It's just the asking price of Houston. You want a combination of first-round picks and players that equals out to 6. Whether that be 3 first-round picks and 3 players, 4 first-round picks and 2 players, 4 players, 2 first-round picks, like a combination of picks. They wanted a combined 6 total in return for just Deshaun Watson, even with not knowing if he's even going to be able to play this year.
Yeah, and I heard the reports. I was going to say,
I think a lot of the teams kind of balked at that effort.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, the reports on Watson in terms of him playing, they said if he does end up getting traded, that the NFL is going to look into suspending him pretty much if he does get traded. Yeah, so essentially...
Why wouldn't they do that now?
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't make any sense. So essentially what I'm saying is if you're stashing Watson, you can get rid of him. I don't think he's going to be a factor. But yeah, that's all we had time for today. If you guys enjoyed the video, please like, comment, subscribe down below. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or The Fantasy Few. We're on Spotify as well. Go ahead and check us out there. But I'm Stone from The Fantasy Few. I'll see you later.